Cool, amazing. So that's all good. And yeah, we'll get started. So kia ora, everyone. Welcome to I guess it's not a how-to video. I guess I'm ingrained to saying that, but this is like a success story, or I guess, a chat with Nicola. And I guess any questions, please put them in the chat if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn as well. Or if you're watching this later on, give us an email at support@digitalmoves.co.nz. And today we've got Nicola from, is it Mainstream Green? Was it? Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I was like, I guess we all know sustainability is a key topic across industry at present, as it should be. And we're excited to share, how Nicola is making sustainability easy, normal, and help us all not only feel good, but do good. We're also looking forward to hearing about the movement you're creating and how you are educating everyone to be mindful about what to consume and the impact it will have on both individuals and our planet and future generations. So yeah, if you want to do a little intro, tell us about yourself and, how you come about what you do and essentially your why, and I guess a little bit about your background, because, reading up about you before this, it's been a really interesting thing to learn.
Cool. Awesome. Cool. Kia ora tip. Thanks for having me here. So my name is Nicola Turner and I live in Cambridge or Kimuriti in the Waikato with my husband and 2 young children. And I guess my sort of relevant business story starts with my career history. So I spent the first 15 years of my career working in the fast moving consumer goods industry, or the FMCG industry, where it's essentially the industry that puts products on our supermarket shelves. And my job in that industry became what's called shopper insights, shopper marketing. So understanding how we all behave as shoppers in the supermarket. So looking at things like every time you swipe one card or a Flybuys, analysing all of that data. I used to follow people around the store with a clipboard to watch them shop. It was very weird and very voyeuristic, but at the same time, really, really interesting. It was just all about understanding our shopper behaviours and then using that insight to orchestrate things to get people to buy more. It was very much about driving consumption. And look, I loved my career. It was really interesting. I got to work with really great people and I got to sort of travel the world with it, which was great. But then about 10 years ago, I started on a personal journey towards living more sustainably, I guess. And I found that what I was doing in my day job and what I was doing in my personal life started getting a little bit too divergent. So I started really questioning how I could use the experience that I had and the knowledge that I had as a bit more of a force for good. So I used to be about understanding shopper behavior to get people to buy more. And now I'm about understanding human behavior to get people to consume less. Because ultimately the consumption choices we make every day, whether it's the clothes we wear or the food we eat or the electricity that we use or the way that we get around or the things that we throw out, ultimately all of those consumption choices are our impact on the world. That's our footprint. So what I find really interesting is how do we change our behavior? How do we become more mindful of our consumption and therefore reduce our impact? So I created my social enterprise Mainstream Green about 8 years ago. And the tagline's all about making sustainability easy, normal, and feel good. So I focus on that behavior change space as I talk about. A lot of people inherently want to do the right thing when it comes to sustainability, but that doesn't mean that we follow through and do it. So that's the area that I operate in. How do we engage and inspire people to actually change their behavior? And in my business, I work with organizations, do a lot of sort of public speaking, motivational speaking with organizations to get them excited about sustainability and give them a sort of a toolkit to change around that. I do a lot of consulting work and project work with councils and a lot of public facing or household or individual stuff as well. And a lot in the e-learning space, a lot of speaking, a lot of in-person events, but also a lot of online learning as a result of COVID.
Oh, amazing. Thanks. That's, definitely really interesting. And I guess, so do you think you've covered Mainstream Green?
I think so. Yeah, like I said, it's a social enterprise, so I'm in business to do good and with the goal of behavior change in terms of trying to excite and engage people and change their behavior around sustainability. I'm always trying to innovate and evolve in that way to be able to create more impact, because that's ultimately the goal of my business.
Yeah. Cool, amazing. That's super cool. And I guess just for context, I guess your clients are mostly, or a bit of everything, right? I think you've got individuals, councils, organizations, bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So with organizations, a lot of the work that I do with them either comes under the guise of sustainability or employee wellbeing. So I'll quite often go in, they might get me in as a keynote speaker for a conference, or they might get me in to run a lunchtime workshop for their team. So that's kind of the work that I do with organizations. And then if they're really wanting to get in to start measuring or create sustainability strategies, I'll kind of hook them up with the right people to help them on that journey, whatever's kind of their next step. With councils, I do a lot of projects and campaigns, as well as a lot of workshops and education, either online or in person. And in the household or individuals, I create a lot of online content, whether it's sort of online courses or blogs or social media content. I had a book come out last year. I do a lot of in-person events. So all slightly different, but all kind of based around that same core idea.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And I guess in terms of like in-person events after this, definitely check out Nicola's TEDx talk, which I finally saw like, I guess sometime like earlier this year or late last year. So it's really fun talking to you.
Oh, cool.
Which is fun. It's like meeting celebrity, right? But I guess like in terms of like organizations, like I guess tell us how you're empowering the people and organizations you work with to make simple changes. I guess.
Yeah, so I guess, the area that I focus on is really that human side of sustainability. So as an organization, you may have a sustainability strategy, or you may be measuring and tracking and having action plans against your carbon footprint, for example. There's some amazing organizations and some amazing tools out there that help you do that. But ultimately, you still need to bring people with you, right? People in your organization, people in your teams, etc. Ultimately, to make change happen, we need to bring people with us. And so what I do is when I'm working with organizations, if I'm doing a speaking event, for example, it's all about changing people's mindsets, right? Because quite often that word sustainability can be really polarizing. All of us inherently want to do the right thing, but we can be sort of switched off or feel like it's going to be too hard or too much of a big deal or something that we'll do when we've got a bit more time. So I try and shift people's mindsets to really open their mind to sustainability in a way that's relevant and feels good to them. And then what I'll do is give the people in the organization, because ultimately organizations are people, it's just a bunch of people. So with the teams and also the organization, it's also then just giving them a toolkit of how you approach change. So if you want to, I'll give you a really simple example. One organization I worked with wanted to reduce the waste they were creating. So we looked in the rubbish bins and we went, okay, a really big part of your waste, they're a large corporate office, really big part of their waste was disposable coffee cups, right? Because lots of the team were going out during the day and getting their takeaway coffee and bringing it back to the office and throwing their cups away. So, okay, cool. We want to reduce the amount of disposable coffee cups that are coming into the office or that are being thrown out. So they bought everybody a beautiful reusable coffee cup. Cool. Job done, right? Except the fact is that you give everybody a beautiful reusable coffee cup, but that doesn't mean that they're going to start using it. You've got to kind of bring them on board in terms of help them understand the why. You've also then got to really address any barriers that might get in the way to that change. So for example, lots of people were forgetting to take them with them. So shooting out to the cafe, forgetting to take their cup with them. Okay, so what they then decided to do was have a table of them by the lift, right? Or they also then partnered with a local cafe where 90% of their people were getting their coffee anyway, and they carried a stash of those reusable coffee cups. So that got lots more people using them. Another barrier that we discovered was that people would take them, bring them back to their desk, and then not wash them, right? And so then they'd sit and become this weird feral science experiment. Tip, I see you raising your eyes. Maybe that's you, right? Because that's reality, right? It's not, and it's easy to get frustrated and go, well, that's just ridiculous. People need to wash their cups, but it's a barrier, right? So how do we overcome that barrier? So they spoke to their cleaning staff and said, look, is it possible that the cleaning staff can pick them up and put them in the dishwasher and clean them? And the cleaning staff like, look, great idea, but we don't have time. So then it was addressing that and going, okay, what if everybody had a rubbish bin under their desk in the office, which is, it means everybody was just unconsciously throwing stuff into their rubbish bin. So a conversation with the cleaning staff was like, let's remove those rubbish bins, save you time emptying those, get people to get up and walk to the recycling station and deal with their waste properly. That frees up a bit of time to then pick up the dirty cups and put them in the dishwasher. So it's all about that human side of it, right? If you're wanting to make a change, how do you bring people with you? How do you engage them in the why and take out the barriers to creating change?
Yeah, cool, definitely. And I love how I can literally close my eyes and imagine like the different offices I've worked in. One literally had I had 2 bins like literally right under me, which like felt ridiculous. And
yeah,
mine lab here, there's only like one set of bins in the kitchen, which is good because it forces you to get up, go for a walk, have a chat with someone as well. So there's like a bit of social as well.
totally.
And then and like as you said, it saves the cleaner time to do other stuff. And
yeah, exactly. And breaks that, because so much of the behavior that we do is habitual and on autopilot, right? And so if there's a rubbish bin there, you just throw stuff in it. Whereas if you break that autopilot and go hop up and walk, it's breaking, it's creating new habits and helping you to do the right thing.
Definitely. And I guess it is also probably good in a way, do you think, to see like all your rubbish like on your table. And then you're like, oh, actually I'm using quite a lot,
Yeah.
Cool. That was a good fix. And then I guess to that, do you think like removing these barriers and making it easier is that kind of the way for like organizations to get people on board? Or
it's a part of the puzzle, right? It's a part of the puzzle. And I guess the part of the puzzle that I think is really important in the area that I work in the area that I encourage organizations and anybody, because ultimately it's that human part, whether it's you in your own household or you in your organization, the logic is the same. It's all just about applying that human lens to things. And when it comes to behavior change, it's all about how do we understand that gray area of being human and navigate that to get people to change. And that's all about, there's lots of different, parts of kind of behavior change academia, but it's all about, how do you make change really easy? How do you make change feel really good? There's things like social norms, so you create social norms around it. There's lots of levers, but ultimately I think that's a really important part of the puzzle, is that human factor and understanding that and making it easy, making it normal, make it feel good for people.
Yeah, cool, amazing, thanks. That was great, I love it. And I guess the next thing is, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but you work across a range of customer types, individuals, councils, organizations. Do you have different products essentially or services you've created to meet individual needs for different types of?
Yeah, that's a cool question. So, it's kind of that 80-20 rule, right? In terms of the core of what I do and what I offer is always the same. But the way that I wrap it up and make it accessible and enticing, if that's the right word, attractive, I guess, for the different areas of the business is slightly different, right? So for organizations, we've talked a little bit about that. So organizations are often wanting to engage their people. They might have a sustainability strategy and they're wanting to embed that a little bit more, or they're looking from an employee well-being point of view. And that's when I'll go in and deliver workshops, deliver speaking events, because that's kind of what suits organizations. With individuals, it's all about thinking about how people learn and what's going to engage them. So where are people and how are they consuming their information? So obviously a lot of social media, a lot of blogs, a lot of, sort of my email database, nurturing that. I had a book come out, and then obviously there's been a really big shift to online learning. So continually innovating in that space to make it accessible and attractive for people to learn at home, or obviously come out to in-person events, which I'm really excited about, up and running now. And then with councils, a bit more project work. I run workshops and e-learning for them, but again, it's tailored because council. So if I do an online learning course for councils, it'll make sure that it's tailored to that local area. And it talks about, for you in Tamaki Makaurau, you have specific recycling bins and certain things can go in them. So I'll tailor it in a way that obviously works, dovetails into the council and their priorities as well. So yeah, core is kind of the same, but definitely wrap it in different ways.
Yeah, cool, amazing. And I guess You did mention like online learning, so I might quickly, I guess the next kind of question we had was, we're interested in like the digital tools you use in business, and if you could share, I guess, the challenges you experienced that led you to choose these tools and the impact they've had in your business.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really interesting when I first started, the conversation, the corridor with you guys, I'm like, I don't feel like a digital business. Like I felt like, I don't know if I'm going to be the right fit for Digital Boost, but as we were just saying before we started, when you start writing down the digital tools, it's like, oh my gosh, like I could just easily reel 25 of them off the top of my head, right? So the core of my business is obviously not digital. It's all about engaging and inspiring and creating change, but digital has been a really cool way to enable that to happen, obviously. And so when I started thinking about digital tools, I sort of crudely could put them into three key areas. So the first area was admin. So how do I use digital as a way to streamline all the admin in my business so that I'm spending less time on that and more time on creating impact and doing, the core of my business. So in terms of admin tools, the obvious ones being Xero. I used to be on spreadsheets and I'm comfortable in spreadsheets, but they didn't feel overly time consuming. But the reality is that they are. And even just that mindset of going, I've got to go into Excel and do this and, put all my expenses in. So shifted to Xero, and that's been a game changer. I just use their GST cash book, and it's honestly been a game changer in terms of being able to do my GST returns, just on my, my end of year taxes. And oh my gosh, it's just such a breeze compared to what it used to be. So yep, Xero's been a good one. Dropbox, I use Dropbox in terms of my cloud storage and in terms of my document sharing. As soon as everything I do is on the cloud. So that's really good because I move around. I work in lots of different places, and even if I don't have my laptop, I can, access it. So Dropbox has been a game changer for me. I use Humanitix. I do a lot of events and ticketing. So Humanitix is the ticketing and event platform that I use, which is, again, it used to be I had to charge people for tickets and reconcile bank statements, all those kinds of things. And so that's been a game changer as well. The second sort of area, I guess, that I thought about in terms of my digital tools is collaboration. So I predominantly work on my own, but I do get people to, do work for me. I collaborate a lot with other people in the space as well. Most of us work on our own, and most of us have a philosophy of we're just better together. If we're working in the space and trying to create impact, let's try and work together as well. So I've ended up having a lot of tools in that space for collaborating. So things like I use Doodle for meeting scheduling, if you're trying to bring lots of people together. I use Slack, Asana, and Trello. And I use all of those because different people use different things. And when I'm collaborating with people, I found that I have to, be able to use whatever they're used to using. I use Zoom, obviously. I use Teams because that's predominantly what councils use. I have a shared Google Calendar, and that's great for work, but it's also that also integrates with my family stuff, so all my husband's appointments go in there, all the kids' appointments, everything is in one place from a calendar point of view. I use Pinterest for, if I'm getting photography shoots or anything done, that's kind of where I create boards and things for creative inspiration. And then I've recently started using Miro for collaborative brainstorming as well, which I really, really love. And then the third area is kind of a big kind of dumping ground for marketing and innovation. And I've put some digital tools into there as well. So in my business, I'm constantly having to innovate in terms of how do I continue to engage people and come up with new ways of doing things. So obviously a website is a big part of that. And I have Rocket Spark, very proud that they are based in Cambridge in the Waikato. So I use them for my website. And that includes my book, predominantly sells through bookstores, but I also have my book available to be bought on my website, and that has a Stripe payment integration. I use Canva Premium. It's amazing. When I do outsource a lot of design work to real people, but for the 80-20 for the stuff that I can do myself, I use Canva. I use Insta. I use Facebook. I use LinkedIn, obviously for my social channels. I use Typeform for surveys. I use Grammarly to check my writing. And a really big, and you touched on it, tip, a really big one is in that online learning space. So that's been a big move for me over the last few years. That's what COVID has has challenged me on, because a lot of what I did was in person. So I've really had to change my thinking in terms of how to engage people online. And so I use a platform called Kajabi, Kajabi. If you've never heard of it, Kajabi. I went through a few sort of bespoke online learning platforms. So they are platforms that can host videos, host resources, are kind of set up to have learning modules, learning can be drip fed. So every week you might get a new module. I tried a few and I landed on Kajabi as my favorite. It's just a really beautiful platform and seemed to have really nice capability. And that also meant I historically used MailChimp and then moved on to Flowdesk for my email database. Flowdesk I loved, it was amazing, but Kajabi has all of that built in. So Kajabi is now my email marketing, my online learning. It could also be my website platform if I wanted it to be. So yeah, and I found it really intuitive to work with and a really good user experience. So I use that a lot. And with my online learning, I'm creating videos as well. So I use Vimeo, I use YouTube, I use YouTube or rev.com for subtitle creation. I use teleprompters when I've got a teleprompter app on my phone that I use when I'm recording videos if I need to remember what I need to say. And then if I'm doing some basic editing, I'll do it myself in iMovie. Otherwise, I will outsource that. So I think that's a bit of a whistle stop tour.
Ooh, nice, amazing. I love how you started with like, I don't think I was digital business, and then you literally listed like every digital tool in the entire internet. But amazing. But also like on that, if anyone's like, oh my gosh, she's like Nicola, she's clearly a digital native, which I'm sure you are. She's clearly like onto everything. I think, I assume you've probably just grown as your business has grown, and you've picked up more tools as you've needed it. It's like, as you say, like when you need to do a quick design of that Canva, it's great. When you're doing, like you're really good on Excel, and I love Excel as well, but sometimes you're just like, wow, that was really easy. Like, when like tools that were designed for, to save time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, why would I pay for it when I know how to do it? I'm confident with it. But then sometimes like having something save you time is just so invaluable.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. And I think sometimes doing that kind of time and motion check on yourself is really interesting as well, because it feels like it doesn't take time, but when you start adding up all of that time and also that mindset switch, sometimes if something's hanging over you and then you've got to think about doing it and then you've got to log into a system and you've got to find your way around, you can easily lose an hour, right? And so it's that opportunity cost of time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I'd like to address your comment about me being a digital native. I don't feel like I am at all. You're absolutely right that it's just been this, and I've learned that through collaborating with other people as well, and amazing things, resources like Digital Boost, where you kind of, see things and you're like, oh, maybe that could help me. And it very much has been that really organic process.
Totally. Yeah, definitely. Like it's definitely quite organic because, other people are using Slack and then they invite you, they use Zoom and then you're on Zoom now and that kind of stuff. And then like I think the good thing about platforms is they try to be as user friendly as they can. So it's if you've used a few of them, there's a lot of crossover in how to use them. So I guess for those joining in or listening in who are a bit scared of these tools, like if you do come across it, take a shot at it, have a try. Like sometimes you don't really know until you try it. But yeah. But oh my gosh, that was great. Just like listing like all the tools,
And but it was a little bit of a lesson for me as well, because I was like, okay, I use Trello, Asana, Slack. You also go, do I really need to use all of those? But it's just been the nature of my business that I do a lot of collaboration. Because ultimately I only use tools that are going to, it's easy to kind of get bogged down in just using tools for the sake of using tools. But as you say, because I do a lot of collaboration with lots of different types of businesses, that's kind of the nature of the beast for me. And as you say, once you kind of get the hang of one or two, you'll find that they are pretty intuitive. And if they're not, then, if I find a system really not intuitive, then I kind of back away and go, is there another choice? But
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Cool, amazing. And yeah, that was That was fun. I guess, I guess the next question we had was, what would your top three tools that you recommend to other businesses that you think you couldn't not live without? Obviously, and actually before that on quickly, you just said like even Miro, I just started on that as well. And that's super fun, especially over the last lockdown we had here, because it is, I guess, like in an ideal world, which I guess hopefully we're coming back to, you've got a literal whiteboard and, you're collaborating and you're in person. But Miro, I found really great in lockdown when you couldn't do that. It was like the next best thing. So definitely give that a try if you haven't yet. But yeah, I guess we'll go to your top three tools to recommend.
Yeah, awesome. So I think, and maybe this is a good thing, I think they're going to be really predictable and really probably consistent across a lot of businesses. So Xero has been, just like I said, a game changer. That's not my natural state, wanting to spend time on my account. So that has really freed up my time and my mindset, I guess, around the work that I'm doing. Canva, I have Canva Pro or Premium, whatever it is. So I just started paying for it about 6 months ago, and that has been a game changer for me. But you know what it's also done is also made me, like I said, it's a bit of an 80-20 rule. It's also made me value the true, if I really need something done that's next level, then it's also made me value other people's graphic design skills as well and outsourcing that. But for 80% of stuff, I can do it on Canva, and that's amazing. And then Dropbox, like I said, that having that cloud storage, I don't, I'm never setting all of that up. And I also use LastPass for password storage as well. Having that kind of security of I can access my stuff all the time. I'm not at risk of losing things. And even if I don't have my laptop and my husband has his, I can log on and access all of my stuff, and I can share stuff. Like I found that a real big game changer. So I think those are my three real core ones. And I think they'd be relevant to a lot of businesses. So Xero, Canva, and Dropbox. But then the really specific one for my business has been Kajabi, has been a really big game changer as well. It's that one-stop shop for being able to disseminate learning information, have all my resources in one place, communicate through my email marketing as well.
Yeah, cool, amazing. Yeah, and I guess those are three great tools. And I guess the good thing about it is it's not something new. We've all heard of them, and I definitely do recommend like the cloud, because it is especially these days it's so nice, because if something happens to your tech, or if you are on holiday, or something, it is game changing just being able to like even go on your phone and quickly sending off a link before you catch a flight or whatever it is. Yeah, it makes me think, like one of my coworkers bought in a USB and yesterday, and like their daughter was like, what's that? And and I guess for good reason, because it's like I definitely remember losing a lot of work on USBs, and these days it's like so effortless. Like you can get it from your phone to your laptop just like that. Before you'd have to plug it in and do all this random fun stuff.
And I'm old enough to even remember like discs, like hard discs.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's come a long way.
Yeah, definitely. But cool. And I guess I think probably now's a good time to segue into I think I'm really keen to hear about like Kajabi and guess your learning platform and how you use it in a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So I try to, as an online learning platform, so I've kind of got 3 strategies, 2 of which are in place and 1 is work in progress. So one is, I always do a combination of learning styles, right? So my most basic online learning is something like a masterclass, right? So I did a sustainable fashion masterclass, for example, and that has a series of videos. So you'll go in and there'll be a video talking about a certain topic to do with sustainable fashion. And then there'll be it's able to host a written transcript of that video. So if people prefer to read versus watch, they can do that. They can also just listen if they prefer the audio. And then there will be, if I've talked about certain things, there'll be a resource section in there, and people might be able to download a PDF of, key resources, or they'll be able to click on hyperlinks. And there will also be, there might be, if I'm encouraging them, because a key part of behavior change is encouraging people, what are the next steps? So there might be a downloadable, planner for this is the next steps I'm going to take. Whatever is going to help people get the information they need, the resources that are going to help them, and some sort of structure around how to nurture them through the next steps. So that's kind of the basic online learning. And that's a masterclass, but then I also have like 6-week programs. So there'll be weekly, that information and that learning will be chunked into weekly modules, and then the system will allow me to send those out on a weekly rhythm, right? So every Wednesday at 8 a.m. or whatever is the right time for my target market. If it's households, it's probably about 8 p.m. on a Tuesday night. That's when that information will land in your inbox. And then because that system is also connected to my email database, so what I previously would have used MailChimp for or Flowdesk for, there's also that element of communication, right? So it might be that, tip, you've downloaded the fashion masterclass, you've watched it, or you've watched half of it, right? So a week later, the system sends you an email to remind you that it's still there, or to give you a key point or a key resource. And then 2 weeks later, you finish it. And so you can really kind of nurture people's learning experience. It also has and you could do this through Facebook groups, but it has the ability to connect with other people. It has the ability to have a conversation in there in terms of, comments, and I will be able to respond to those. And it allows you to connect with other people that are doing the course. So that's why I chose that system, because it had a lot of that capability. And it gives me a lot of flexibility as well. So yeah, and I kind of do those masterclass kind of approaches, those 6-week learnings, and then I'll look at creating a way more detailed and in-depth kind of signature course, which will be based on my book, which goes through all of the areas of my house, and would kind of be a higher price, and I would probably be in there a lot more on a live basis as well.
Yeah, cool, amazing. I put a link to both of Nicola's websites. So there's the Kajabi one and the mainstream green, like it's the homepage or the main landing page, I guess. So they're both in the chat if you want to have a look. Definitely, bookmark that, and sign up for the newsletter. Yeah, no, that's super interesting. Thank you. And yeah, I guess we'll kind of keep moving on. We did get a couple of questions. We'll get to them at the end. If you have any more questions, please drop them in wherever you're tuning in. Just a reminder. And yeah, I guess the next thing is, you said you offer like a 5-day challenge on your website. I think a 5 or a 10-day, I think. How does that work, and what have been the largest insights your customers have found from doing this?
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I have a 5-day challenge targeted at organizations, so changes you can kind of make in the workplace, and then a 10-day challenge targeted at more in that kind of in-home, that household one. And so and I see one of the questions was about how do I go about acquiring students? So I think this will speak really well to that question. So that is my lead magnet, right? So my automated lead magnet. So a lead magnet being, what can I offer to people that is valuable to them, that will get them to give me their email address and get them on my email database, right? So it's a list building tool. So I created these 2 series based on insight in terms of, what people want. So they're really small, bite-sized, simple changes that people can make that are a little bit out of the ordinary. So it's not like just take your coffee cup, or, don't ask for a straw. They're a little bit out of the ordinary in terms of wash your clothes less. We wash our clothes too much. Even the CEO of Levi Strauss says, don't wash your jeans, So we wash our clothes too much, and washing less saves time. It reduces our water consumption. It reduces our use of energy. It reduces our use of detergents. So it makes our clothes last longer, less shedding of microplastics if it's synthetic fibers. So it's a real win from an impact point of view, but it also saves time. So it's hacks like that I share, because I've learned that that's what my audience is really interested in. So they'll sign up for it. I get their email address and they go on my email database. Of course, they can unsubscribe at any time, but and it also gives them an experience of me, right? So they can very quickly go, oh, I like you and I like what you're about, and therefore I'm going to continue on my journey with you. Or they go, you know what, you're really not for me. and that kind of, gets them out of that loop, or it really puts them in, and it really kind of connects them to me and my journey. And then I can continue to kind of nurture them through emails, etc. So, and I might publicize, that 10-day challenge on social media, or people just might come to my website and find it. They might, people might hear me speak today and go to my website and see that and sign up for them. And it starts creating a relationship with them. And so that gets them on, that list builds, it gets them on my email database, which is predominantly how I market my public facing stuff. So be it events or online courses. And yeah, they've been really, really good. They took a little while to do, and I wanted to do them really well. And also I give away a lot of stuff. I really believe I do what I do because I want to create impact, and I believe in offering value to people. And the more value I give to people, the more likely they are to keep coming back for more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think to the value point, it is, people always ask us, I guess, here at Digital Boost, like, how do I get more people to follow me on, whether it's social media or email. And I guess it's people will follow you if they find value in it. And, people won't unsubscribe if it's not for them, and that's okay. But definitely, yeah, I guess definitely find like what your customers are looking for and value, what your, potential database. And it's something even at Digital Boost where we try to focus on a lot as well. Just bring the value. And
it's a relationship, right? You're developing a relationship with people, and any relationship takes time and energy. And actually, I found that and I learned this in the FMCG game as well, right? Like if you nurture that loyalty, it's not about numbers of followers or numbers of people on your email database. It's about the quality of that relationship. And if they trust you and they feel connected and they feel like they're getting value out of the relationship, then they will bring value to the relationship as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Amazing. Yeah, that's a really good insight from, I guess, like you've got like your challenge, which is really fun and interesting, but, yeah, I guess that's, obviously you're getting people's emails, but it's like good because it's something that gets them started on their journey, which, they're clearly interested in. And, I guess the whole 5 or 10 days, quite a good digestible, I guess, start.
Yeah. And that gives you really good insight as well, because I can, if I want to dig into the data, I can see, are people dropping off, what's getting the best engagement, is 10 days too long, is 5 days, and that gives me really interesting, because that's what I find really interesting, right? That what's going to help people change, what's going to be the most effective way to get people to change. And I found those really small, bite-sized, here's one thing you can do today, and it's really easy, and it's only going to take you 2 minutes, and there's another thing, and it kind of gets people hooked on that, because making changes, taking action feels good, from a human point of view. It gives us a little buzz when we do something right. So if I can get people into that groove of not going, oh, I want to be more sustainable, but I don't know where to start, and just start with something really small, and then it'll go, oh, that feels really good, and that becomes a gateway to make you go, oh, I'm going to make another little change. And so if I can help people get on that buzz, then they're way more likely to go on and do more.
Yeah. Amazing. Cool. That's great. So yeah, I guess the next question from the list I have is, what would you share with other New Zealanders that are looking to start a business or on this journey, which I'm sure most of you on this, or a lot of you on this call are, and yeah, you wish, like something that you wish someone had shared with you, I guess, earlier on.
Yeah, and look, I don't think it's going to be anything strange or startling. I think people have probably heard this before, but I just want to echo it in terms of just really finding your niche, or your niche if you're American, in terms of just being, because the clearer you are on what you are and what you're not, the clearer your customers are going to be. Right. So when I first started out, I'm like, I want to save the world. And I started doing workshops on sustainability. And what I've ended up doing is going, well, what's sustainability? Sustainability is really broad. Who's my target market? What are the barriers that are going to get, how do I talk to them? How do I overcome the barriers? And if I look at households as an example, it's all about going, okay, my key target market are women, predominantly women, because they're making a lot of the kind of consumption choices in a household generally. So predominantly women who are really time poor, they've got young kids, they want to do the right thing, but they just feel like it's going to be too hard, too costly, or too much of a compromise to their lifestyle. Cool. As soon as I know that, I can start tailoring my content and how I talk to them. With organizations, it's like, okay, it's, organizations who are starting to think about sustainability, or they have a few people within their organizations that are starting to talk about sustainability that need a real kind of boost to get them started and to get their energy and to get them, their people behind it. Or it's organizations that have got a strategy but really want to kind of corral all their people behind it, and they want to get their team together and do some team engagement. So as soon as you start going, who am I and who am I talking to, then all of a sudden it just drives everything. And it also enables you to say no to the stuff that, is not you, because I found that a really big challenge. I just, people would come to me and go, can you do this? And I'm like, yes, because I want to, because that feels like it's going to create impact. But then it wasn't a smart way of doing business. So as soon as you get really clear on who you or your business, obviously my business is me, but what your business is and what it's not, and get really clear on that, I think that's been the biggest learning for me and continues to be.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a great point, I guess, in terms of just like, I know like from talking to a lot of people, who are starting, I guess, did you come across like who you and your business were like organically, or did something, happen, or?
Yeah, I mean, organically in terms of it's kind of happened over time for sure, but there's been things that I have done to help get clarity on it. And a lot of that is having conversations with people. So people that, do follow me. So I've done a couple of focus groups. I have, I bounce things off. I have a network of people that I kind of bounce things off. I've used Typeform to do surveys of my followers, constantly kind of going, okay. And often you've got to feed people information. So instead of going, tell me what you want, it's a case of, right, I'm thinking of doing this, or this, what works, and constantly getting that feedback. So it's a constant conversation with people that follow me, with people on the database, because then that makes them feel valued as well. They're part of my journey. They're such a big part of my journey, and getting that feedback and listening to that feedback and responding to that feedback in terms of, what I offer them and things, I think really helps, bring everybody together. Same with organizations. Anytime I do something, if I speak, I make it really easy to get really solid feedback and really honest feedback, and not being afraid of feedback, because that's where you get that really amazing growth from. Feedback, I'm human, you get feedback and it's not great, and you get that initial kind of but it's always an opportunity. My business is built on feedback in terms of from where I started to where I am now to where I will continue to evolve, has all been because, it's a constant trial and error and listening and responding to feedback.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think definitely, whether it's your personal or your business growth, like feedback is definitely so valuable, especially, for things that you maybe didn't think of, or I guess, especially from your customers. And I guess, I'm sure we'll have people wondering, like, how do you like get feedback if you're struggling to, I guess, like any pointers on that, I guess?
Yeah. So again, and it's helpful if you make some assumptions, that might not be the right word, but make some assumptions around who you think your target market is, and find where they are, and find a way to get feedback in a really easy way, right? So I've done various things. I've had people I know or loyal followers who I've kind of put in chat groups, or, offered them, done a kind of online coaching call for them in exchange for feedback. So again, find who they are, what's going to make it really easy to give them feedback, and what's going to make them feel valued out of that, or give them value somehow out of that. So that might be one where I've gone, okay, I really want to talk to those people. They're on my database, or their followers. I can see that they're really loyal. what do I think they'd want? Well, maybe it's time or learning from me. So if I offer that in exchange for feedback, that can be a really good way of doing it. A survey, a basic survey is really good. So I use Typeform for my surveys. But again, really think about what you're asking, because to go out to people and go, what do you want from my business? Well, they don't really know. Right. What I tend to do is go, okay, I've got some theories of what I think people might want, but I need feedback on those. So that really kind of targeted feedback in terms of that. I've had focus groups. So I have paid somebody. I did a contra with them. I did some work for them, and they did a focus group session for me, and that was awesome. That was really, really cool. And again, think about, well, what's going to make it easy for people to come to that feedback session? What's going to give them value out of it? We did it over, I shouted everybody a glass of wine, and we did it, out one evening. And it was a really cool, fun event. And just conversations with people. Obviously, you don't want to kind of jump on people at a party and force them to talk about your business. But if things naturally come up, just ask people what they think. It can be really formal, or it can be really, really casual stuff. But if you have an idea or a thought, then the most powerful thing you can do is to socialize it.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely love the focus group, glass of wine at a nice little, a nice venue and stuff. It's always a bit of fun. And also it's a great chance to meet your customers and meet, I guess a more personal level. Cause I guess especially hopefully a lot of, we can do that a lot more these days, moving forward. But I guess, I guess what I was saying, it's just like a nice way to meet your customers. And I guess, sometimes we can get, I guess, because my background is digital marketing. So sometimes you can get a bit too analytical and, you can kind of box people a bit, but sometimes just having chats with people and, we're definitely keen to have more of these with the Digital Boost community. And, I guess it's just nice and fun as well for everyone.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a filter, right? In terms of I find I start by sort of socializing ideas and having conversations about them, and then I might kind of have more structured conversations with people or more formal conversations with people. And then as I kind of refine ideas, then it might become a digital survey, right? So I think I think there's always, and the order of those would be different for different people, but I think it can be really helpful there's no one right way. I think they can all kind of feed into each other. And the other thing actually that just made me think as well, because a lot of stuff is online, how do you make it really easy? Because I used to do events and then send out an online survey, and people's, the amount of people filling out online surveys now has really dropped off. So also what I've learned is to now do, if I'm doing an online Zoom call or something, I'll put a poll, in during the call, right? So we're talking now, and I'm like, okay, it has to be relevant, obviously, but it's like, okay, I really want your feedback on this. Vote yes for this or no for that. And then people are there and they're doing it and they're live and they see other people doing it, and that makes it really easy. Or at the end of a Zoom call, you can do a little survey. So end the call, that survey automatically pops up. So again, if it is digital, how are you going to make it as easy as possible for people to do it? And people are talking white, and people's attention span is short, so you've got to be really kind of pointed and make it.
Definitely. Yeah. Cool. And definitely use the tools in front of you. Like as you said, I think the Zoom polls and all the features are a really cool way to, I guess, make it more interactive as well, which probably makes your talk more fun.
Yeah.
But I guess if anyone has any questions, drop them in the chats. We've got about 10 minutes, including wrap up. But I guess we had one on social, which was your title, I think online, is behavior changer or something.
Mm-hmm.
I guess how did you come across that? I think that's one of the coolest titles I've heard. So
that's awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
How did I come across that? I mean, ultimately what I do is change behavior. That's my goal anyway. I hope I achieve that. So I mean, I distilled that title over time, but I found it really hard to describe what I do. What's my elevator pitch? But when I really kind of distilled it down, what's going to speak to, the people that I work with from a household level are wanting to change their behavior. Organizations are wanting to change what happens with their people in their organization. And that's a big thing for council. It's all well and good talking about, visibility and engagement around sustainability is pretty high. I feel like people inherently want to do the right thing, but, the game that I play is, well, how do we actually get them from knowing they want to change to doing it? So yeah, I just felt like over time it felt like the right way of kind of really summarizing what I do in 2 words. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I love a simple, just yet really descriptive yet perfectly accurate title like that.
cool. Yeah, it took a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I guess another thing was, is there much difference between, like, I guess when you're talking to like individuals, or if you're talking to like, I guess, is there like challenges when you're, I guess, working with like organizations about I guess moving their staff, I guess, towards it? Because I guess, like, from my experience, there are, like, personally, I am very interested, and I'm super glad to have had a chat with you about everything. It's super great. And then, but I guess, like, for organizations, sometimes it's how do you get the whole train on board, or get everyone on board the train also?
Yeah. And it's a really, really good question. And it's a really interesting journey that I went through. So when I kind of started my journey focusing on households and, that kind of in-home stuff, and then went, how do I change that or evolve that so that I can start talking, to corporates? And I spent ages going, how is it different? How do I need to change it? And then I went, it's not, because ultimately we are all people, right? Organizations are just made up of individuals. So when I speak, when I create anything, it's all about how do I open people's minds to this and give them toolkits for kind of creating that change. And that's the same mindset. Like, if you switch your mindset, if I manage to kind of open your mind a little bit about sustainability, you're taking that mindset into the workplace, as well as into your home, as well as into your network of friends. You are a human wherever you are. And with organizations, some of the most successful organizations I have seen from a sustainability perspective, or most of them, if not all, I'm not going to call it that big, but I think, it'll be most of them, is because there's been a couple of really passionate individuals, maybe even one, who have gone, actually, you know what, we need to do things differently. They've gone in with that mindset, and they've just started that journey of change. And it could be something really simple in terms of, what, we've got lots of food waste going into our bin at work. I'm going to bring in a compost bucket, or I'm going to find out if there's, a community garden that collects compost, or whatever that might be, and starts with that change. And then other people will see it, kind of be motivated to do the same. Then they'll kind of get that change embedded, and they might go, okay, what else we can do? What else and all of it, in the future, all of a sudden they're doing everything, they have a massive sustainability strategy and have completely kind of changed the way they do their business. So to me, it's all about, it's very, that human side of it is what really intrigues me. How do you unleash that kind of desire in people to do things differently, give them a few tools to do that, get that started. And then I fundamentally believe in and see evidence every day of that ripple effect of change, be that through organizations or through communities or, through people wherever they are.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely a good point, because I'm like, one of my close friends, ex-flatmates, like at our flat, they definitely pushed, everyone to, I guess, like all our household habits and all that, but like bringing in a compost bin, like getting all of that stuff, and then all the simple like baby steps, and going to refilleries and everything like that. And I guess, like, from that, I guess I personally, do the same now in my new place, and
nice.
I guess, and like, it's definitely like an interesting thing of like, being that, I guess, driver for your community, whether it's your work community or your friend group or your flat or your whatever it is. And I guess, like, for people who do want to be that person, do you have any, like, I guess, pointers on I guess, how do you think, this might be a hard question. It depends on circumstances, of course, but, how would you be that person to, drive it, I guess?
Yeah. And my approach to that is just, so I believe there's this really nice theory of the best impact you're going to have is the sweet spot between what needs to be done, what skills you have, or capability you have, and what excites you, or what gets you going, right? So if I look at Mainstream Green was based on the fact that what I believe needs to be done is that we need to be way more mindful of how and what we're consuming, and make some changes around that, change our behavior around that. My capability is, okay, I've got 15 years in FMCG, understanding shopper behavior, shopper insights, etc. Okay, I bring that, and lots of public speaking. And what lights me up is connecting with people and having conversations and engaging them. So therefore, for me, that's where I focus my time and my energy, right? So what I encourage people to do is go, okay, what's something that needs to be done? And maybe that's we'll come back to that compost example, right? Okay, well, we need to, all of our food waste is going into the rubbish bin, and food waste is not great. Globally, we waste a third of all food that is produced, and then it goes to landfill and it breaks down in a weird way and creates methane, extremely powerful greenhouse gas. Don't get me started. I could talk for days on that. So that needs to be done. Okay. I don't know. I know how our office runs, or I know where there's a community garden. I know how to set up a bin, and I'm really passionate about it because I can see that actually then we can use that compost to grow more food, right? So that's where I'm going to start. And I think it's really easy to get overwhelmed with how, seeing the big picture of, oh my gosh, there's so much to do, but actually just focus on one thing that excites you, one thing that you can do, one thing that needs to be done, and choose that one thing and start. And it doesn't matter how small that start is, but just start.
Yeah.
And make that change really easy for other people.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a super interesting. Yeah, that's super cool. And yeah, this has been great. And yeah, I guess even personally for me, I definitely learned a lot from this, and definitely been really interesting. And I guess thinking about other things in my community, because I'm quite lucky to live in Central Auckland. There's I guess there's a community garden across the road from my apartment, literally, which is great. And yeah, which is super cool.
This amazing app. Since we talk about digital tools, there's an amazing app called Share Waste, SHARE, Share Waste, and that's been created to connect people to, if you have a compost bin and you're happy to take your neighbour's compost, you'll list yourself on there. Or you might go, oh, there's a community garden over there that I can take it to, or my neighbour's got a worm farm on their balcony and I can give theirs. So it's designed to connect people to help out with that as well.
Amazing. Cool. That's perfect, because we are digital boost, so let's
make it digital, make compost digital.
Totally. Yeah. And yeah, I guess thanks so much. This has been great. And I guess for the last 2 minutes, it'd be great for you to, I guess, share any closing thoughts, but also where people can find you. I've put in your website before, I'll do it again. And yeah, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, cool. So closing thought is, look, my view on things is sustainability isn't this big other thing that we need to wait to do, or find time or resource or employ somebody to do for us. It really is just a mindset change. How do we become more conscious of how and what we're consuming, and what's one small thing, I can do within my home or my workplace to get on that journey of change, because trust me, it feels really good and you'll get a buzz out of taking action. So I guess that's my closing thought. Look, I'm pretty easy to find. Mainstream Green, on my website, on my socials, on LinkedIn, I'm there under Mainstream Green or Nicola Turner. And please reach out. I am it. You will not get forwarded to the HR department or the IT department or the finance department.
You are looking at it.
This is it. Live from my bedroom in Cambridge. This is it. And I do what I do because I really believe in the power of conversation and engagement. So please feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, amazing. Well, yeah, no, this has been so great. And I'll just close off with a quick comment we got on Facebook, which is from Juvelin. Sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, but it's a cool name. Juvelin has said, I really like your mindset, Nicola. I'm into sustainability too. Well, just as much as I can, still working it out. But yeah, and yeah, definitely. And Tracy, definitely get in touch with Nicola. It's been a great chat. And yeah, I'll let you enjoy the rest of your day. And, if you are watching and recording the session, get in touch with us or with Nicola for any questions. And yeah, ka kite everyone. And thanks so much again, Nicola. It's been so fun.